so glad to see all of you here, and I'm especially glad to see all of the kids here. I think you're going to love the book talks tonight. We have 3 authors with us tonight. We have Maggie Van Galen, who's written all about Kino and Ernest and their adventures in the jungle. We have Paul Jansen, who has written a book about adoption, and his title, A Child in Our Hearts. I often stop and say, which preposition is that? A Child in Our Hearts. And he's translated it into Spanish, and he's written it for various family constellations, and it's really fabulous. And Darcy Nuttall, who has quite an imagination, she has gone out and gotten some stuffed animals and written stories about them, and it promotes an awareness of mindfulness. And it's great for parents and for teachers and for kids to share discussions around. So I'll have you guys flipped a quarter on who wants to go first.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, Darcy, would you do the favor?
Sure.
All right, Darcy's going to start for us.
Hi, I'm Darcy Nuttall. I'm a counselor and I work in North Andover. I work with families and kids. And in my practice with the kids I work with, I've been using some books that I've written. And the books are on mindfulness. And my latest book is called The Mindful Monster. Is it okay if I have the kids come up?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let me talk a little bit before I ask some kids to come up so I can read you guys my story. Let me tell you a little bit about why I wrote the story and what the story is about. So the story is about a monster, but the monster helps tell the story of mindfulness and what mindfulness is. And mindfulness is basically when you listen to your body and your body tells you, how to proceed, how to be, how to handle when you're afraid, how to handle when you're happy. So it's kind of your body talking to you. And sometimes that can be scary at first. So Fred here, the monster, he kind of teaches you how to listen to your body and to not be afraid of it. So, can I have the kids come and sit up front so I can read you my story?
Do you want a chair right with them?
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, can I sit over here?
Yeah.
All right, can you guys kind of gather around right here? And I'm going to read you my story. Make a half circle right in front of me, okay? Come sit down. All right. Hey, that's my chair, little buddy. Okay. So, everybody, this is Fred. He's the star of my book. And he's a pretty cute monster, okay? He's famous now, so he's kind of hard to deal with. He didn't really want to come tonight. I had to go through his agent to get him to come here tonight.
Really?
Yeah, it's tricky. All right, this is called The Mindful Monster. Oliver was a happy bear, but he had a secret. Oliver had a monster. It was big. It was scary. No one knew about his monster. Oliver was the only one who could see it. One day, Oliver's mama said, "Oliver, tomorrow you'll be going to Big Bear School. You are growing up." Oliver felt happy about this. That is, until he tried to sleep that night. As Oliver settled into his bed, he began to worry. What would school be like? What would the other bears? Would they like him? Would his teacher be nice? Oliver kept on worrying and worrying, and then Oliver's monster came out of nowhere. That's Fred, by the way.
That's the monster.
He jumped right on top of Oliver's chest. That monster jumped and jumped. Ouch, it hurt so much. He ran on poor Oliver's head, running and running in a circle. That monster ran. You see his feet on top of his head? Oliver looked at his monster. He was huge and terrifying. Look at him.
He doesn't look terrifying. He looks sort of cute.
He is kind of cute, isn't he? But Oliver thought he was terrifying.
Yeah.
Go away, monster, said Oliver. Go away now. But the monster jumped and ran faster. The monster ran all night. Oliver did not sleep well. The next morning, Oliver's monster was gone. Oliver was relieved, but also tired. He put on his school shoes, and he grabbed his new space lunchbox. Oliver loved his new lunchbox. Mama took Oliver's hand and walked him to the bus stop, and then the big yellow bus came. Oliver noticed all of the other bears looking out at the windows. Were they looking at him? Beep, beep. The bus driver waved to Oliver. Time to go, said Mama. Oliver felt too scared to move. He did not want to get on that bus. Then it happened again. What do you think happened? What?
I think Fred came again.
We'll see.
Don't call him Fred yet, just call him the monster.
Oliver's monster jumped onto his chest. It was hard for Oliver to breathe, but the monster refused to move.
It's a jumping monster attack.
Go away, monster, said Oliver. Go away now. But the monster clung to his neck, and then Oliver saw his friend Johnny through the bus window. And the monster let go. Oliver felt better. As the bus drove away, Oliver looked at his monster from the bus window. He was big and fuzzy. Interesting, he thought. School was fun, and Oliver learned to write his name. New friends played with him at recess, and one of his new friends also had a space lunchbox. Oliver felt excited.
Hold on, what?
No. Shh, wait till I'm done.
No flash photography.
Oh, all right, my assistant. Then Oliver saw a little girl bear all alone. She was watching Oliver and his bear friends, but she was too shy to join them. Oliver kept playing with his friends. He tried not to think of the little girl bear all alone. But then... Can you guess?
Yes, I thought the monster was going to kill him.
Here he comes. The monster jumped onto his tummy this time. He jumped so hard that he felt like he had a heavy rock inside his stomach. He felt kind of sick. Go away, monster, Oliver said. Go away now. But the monster jumped harder inside of Oliver's tummy. He only stopped when Oliver invited the little girl bear to play with him. It felt good to help the little girl bear. Oliver looked at his monster. He looked smaller than before. And wait, what's that on his head? Underwear. Oh, how silly, Oliver giggled. At the end of the day, Oliver's teacher announced, Oliver Bear, please report to the office. All of the other bears in the class looked up from their lessons. Then Oliver's monster came back. He pinched Oliver's cheeks until they turned red, and he felt hot. Then the monster jumped on his belly again and again. Ouch! Not now, monster, please, said Oliver. But the monster did not go away. He never did what Oliver asked him to do. Oliver looked at his monster closely. Oliver remembered that his monster didn't usually stay long. This made Oliver feel brave. Now his monster didn't look so big. In fact, the monster looked small and cute. No, he looks kind of cute.
Because it has...
Because he's fuzzy.
No, so it sort of has the same things, except that one's all black and that one is black and white.
Yeah, good observation.
Good observation.
Oliver opened the office door and peeked inside. Am I in trouble? He asked the secretary. No, silly bear, your mother is here to drive you home, said the secretary. Oliver ran into his mother's arms. He was so happy. Oliver's monster hugged him too. Oliver was surprised to discover that the monster's arms were fuzzy and warm, and it felt good. His monster whispered, just so you know, my name is Fred, not Monster. Will you be my friend? Really? Said Oliver. Okay, but why do you jump on me? Fred said, I only jump on you when I have a message for you. Strange, thought Oliver. Why do you do it so much? Said Oliver. So you will listen, said Fred. When things are new, scary, or wrong, I remind you to be brave and caring. I even tell you when things are wonderful. If you listen to me, then I won't need to stay long. Look at him and say, hi. Oh, Oliver said.
Yeah, that's a good sense of humor. Especially with the underwear.
Oh, Oliver said. Oliver took another look at his Fred. Now, he did not look so scary. He was, in fact, very small. He looked harmless, although his taste in fashion was questionable.
You mean questionable?
Questionable. Because he's got a sock on his head. Oliver decided that he liked Fred. Besides, Fred was just trying to help. Okay, Fred, you can visit from time to time. The end. See, he's driving away. Fred's like, bye.
The end.
That's right. Good reading.
The end. So good.
Did you guys thank you?
Thank you. Thank you. I love the
So-
co-offers. Thank you.
It's important that I mention that Stephen and Jacob, my sons, helped me take the photos for this book.
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Jake.
So that was a really special part about making it, because the message is really special with what I do and the work that I do with kids and with adults. The message is universal. But it was really special to have my kids help me to not just create the book, but come up with the names of the characters and help me take the pictures. And Stephen is very shy.
I'm not shy.
I know. Okay, Stephen, let me see Fred for a second. All right. You can hold Fred if you're quiet, and you sit down, please. Thank you. Good listening. So, do you guys know what it means to be mindful? Do you guys know what mindfulness is? Alicia, do you know?
When you're like worried and scared, and then something reminds you.
That's a good question. What does it feel like to be worried and scared in your body? Kara.
It feels like it sort of hurts in your stomach
Yeah.
a little bit, but not that much.
Yep. And does it stay forever?
No.
No, it doesn't. It goes away eventually. What about love? When you feel love, where do you feel love?
Oh, I know where I feel
Where?
love.
Here?
I feel like all over my body.
And does it feel hot or does it feel cold?
It feels hot and cold. It feels medium.
That's all right. What about you, Stephen? Where do you feel love? In your heart? In your chest? And does it feel warm or does it feel cold or does it feel
I think
fuzzy?
I think it feels kind of
Warm?
warm. So that would be like medium, hot, medium, cold, like she was talking about.
Good. So you guys are really good at figuring out how your body feels when you have different emotions, and that's kind of what this book talks about. It talks about when you have emotions.
And also, I was gonna try and when it was at the beginning, I was like, why does he jump on the bear?
Do you know why he jumps on the bear?
Now
Why,
I
Emily?
do.
Wait, let Emily.
Because he's sort of like the little message in your brain that tells you what to do.
High five. You get it. You get it.
I know what. That's what
High
I.
five.
That's
High
what.
five all around.
That's why I.
Gentle high
That's
five.
what I got at the beginning.
Good job, Fred. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to my book. This was really special for me to read it to you guys. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Or are we going to do questions at the end?
Her
Or?
first
I
book.
kissed your nose.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, madam?
I want to know why. I want to know why the bear was scared in the story. And Fred's on your head.
Okay, that's a good question. Does anyone know the answer to why the bear was scared? Alicia, why was the bear scared?
Because that
Sit down.
sometimes that when you're scared, you feel something. And I think you're scared because you never knew about it for a long time.
Well, sometimes it's scared to do something new, isn't it?
Down.
Sometimes if you go to a new school or the first day of
This is
school.
something new. I never
This,
read
I'm a
it
little
before.
scared right now. I've done this once before, but this is only the second time I've done this, and it's a little scary for me. But, you know, that's how you become brave, by tolerating that uncomfortable feeling, and then sometimes it goes away. So, anyone else have any questions? Stephen?
Fred bit my nose.
Okay. All right, if you guys are really, really good, where's Fred's nose?
Fred's nose.
Where is it?
Oh, come on.
Okay, so that was my secret, is that Fred's nose is Velcro and it comes off.
Down there.
Oh, there it is. questions? Besides my son.
Fred was a gift.
Tara,
What's
Why
your
do you
from
why do you think Fred is a real person now?
I don't think Fred's a real person, but I think he's a good actor. Isn't he a good actor?
Yeah,
Yes, but you said that you said that you needed. I need you. When you said you said that he was a secret agent. Come on.
All right. Well, no, he's not a secret agent. He's just a puppet.
and he's a good young man.
All right. Thank you very much, kids.
I'm Paul Jansen, and this is the second time I've done this as well. The first time didn't really go that well, so and I've a tough act to follow. So I made a few notes just to guide me along. Don't read the paper, look at the camera. I'm going to talk about the book I wrote here, and I'm going to read a little bit of a passage from it. This is the book. I'm way ahead of my colleagues. I've written 9 books. Actually, I wrote the same book 9 times, but that kind of counts. This is the story of the adoption of my 2 children, Emma and Maria, by my wife Mary and I. And I have had this book translated into Spanish and Italian now. I have had it put together for 2 mothers, 2 fathers, a single mother, a single father, and then all those translated into Spanish as well. Only this version is translated into Italian because we went to visit some friends in Italy and I wanted to give them gifts. Okay? The back of it has a picture of me, and my 2 daughters fight over which one of them is actually on the back, so I won't settle that. And then next to me is Beyonce Knowles. No, it's actually Mary, but they look so much alike I have trouble telling them apart. All right, I'm going to read a little passage from the book. I'm not going to read the whole book because I can't compete. I told this story to my own children when they came from Ecuador to live with my wife and me. It was my way of telling them that they were a part of our family, even if they were adopted. In the process of writing this story, I realized that there were more than just a story. There was more than just a story of an adoption. There was a truth about parenting. Parents realize during the raising of children that they are only complete when they can care for and raise children. Parents of all kinds feel this way. And this is what makes parenting the joy that it is. How the child came to be, birth, surrogate, or adoption, doesn't matter as much as the fact that all children begin in the heart of the parent. Big finish, I'm going to repeat it. All children begin in the heart of the parent. And that's the story of this book. The rest of it is pictures explaining how the mother and father did not feel complete until they had children. This is one of my favorite, where is it? It's one of my favorite pictures. I should have flagged these. Here we are. One of my favorite pictures. The mother and father all the way at the end of one of the table. They finally find where the children are. And at the end of the book, of course, because it is the table that was empty is now full. Now, I was going to have my children come tonight, but they're 25 and 24 and 25. They're 25 and 24. And they don't really want to be seen around their parents. They did come to the last time I did this, and they are the joy of my life. They are the reason I wrote this book, the reason I still go to work every day, apart from my wife. I wrote this book because I wanted people who are adopting children to have my story in the hopes that it would help them to explain to themselves and to their children. I want to talk just a minute about writers and authors. Writers, and they're different. Writers are people who write things. Authors are people who write things and have other people read them. I'm a writer between two authors, and these people are being read, and I hope I will be one day too. The books are up here. I hope you take a look at them. I have to refer to my sheet here. It says read the thing. Okay, and the passion, I've already covered that. I've also, oh, hey, wait a minute. This sheet has something on the other side. This is my next book that is going to be coming out in about a month. It is a murder mystery. It is one that will be carried in some of the local bookstores. I hope you'll look for it. I won't talk about that because that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I will talk about the sale, the marketing of the book. This is kind of a little bit of an educational thing. I have some cards of mine here, some bookmarks if anyone wants them. Please take them. You never know when you're going to see someone who might want this book as an aid. And of course, if you want to buy it tonight, that's okay too. The self-publishing, print-on-demand, subsidized publishing has revolutionized the publishing industry in the way that iTunes and so on have revolutionized music. My two lovely children don't buy CDs anymore, they just download. I still read a book, even one that's longer and more detailed than this one, because that's what I grew up doing and that's what I feel comfortable doing. They're on their Nooks and Kindles and so on like that. And I've learned to be able to read off my computer, but that was a skill I had to acquire. One of the things about the print-on-demand industry is that almost anybody can get something into print. It's relatively inexpensive, but all the work has to still be done that went into publishing a book. Someone has to edit it, someone has to design the cover for it. I have a very nice fella named down here, Kevin Gearman, whom I found on the internet, who did the illustrations for me. The upside is that I can make a book for relatively short money. It's on Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon, and it will be there forever. It doesn't go out of print, because these books are just in a computer somewhere. Unless the whole world computer crashes, they're going to be available. The downside to it, of course, is that they're going to be there forever. And if you publish garbage, the garbage will be there forever. So be careful what you put out, if you're interested in it. Marketing is what I'm here for, what my colleagues are here for. So let me just, there you go, okay. I'll avoid any more of that. There's some more. This cost me $8 and this cost me $5 on Vistaprint, who also did up my card. This is a great education. I really enjoy doing it. But in back of all of that, in back of all the vain attempts I've made at humor tonight, the story of how to self-publish, all of that, is what binds the three of us, and I hope you as well, is that this is something that I feel passionate about. This is something I believe in. I believe that, I believe that all children are our children. The children in our families, the children in our neighbors' families, the children around the world. My children come from Ecuador. That's their birthplace. They are biologic sisters, Emma and Maria. I came to realize that this was an opportunity to bring the rest of the world, at least Ecuador, into my family. I speak more Spanish, yo hablo más español, than either of my children do. They'll learn it again, I'll make it. But I learned about Ecuador, I learned to speak Spanish. I learned to appreciate the fact that there are other people with other ways of looking at things that are just as valid as mine. That's why books are available for two mothers and two fathers and Spanish speaking and so on. Okay? And without that passion, I wouldn't have written a book, and it wouldn't have turned out nearly as well as it did. I think it turned out well. You people can take a look at it. Any questions I'll answer? Any, okay, then I guess we'll move it on to, oh, we have a question.
This is a compliment. Really good job.
What?
You're in love.
Why did I adopt a
I said really good job.
Oh, thank you, a compliment, okay, thank you, gee. I'm not used to those, I didn't recognize the word, I'm gonna have to look up a compliment. Different departure, it's not about adoption children, it's not a children's book. It is about a pediatrician, but not about children, who is involved in a malpractice case. And I am a physician, I work in an emergency department, work over at Lawrence General. It's not autobiographical, not autobiographical. The lead character, Joe, the pediatrician, realizes during the trial that someone has murdered his patient. And that's the story. And if you want to know how it turns out, fine. Well, I have a website, I have several songs that I've written, one of which is about adoption that you can access by going on the website. It's a difficult address to remember the website, so better write it down. It's pauljansen.com. Okay. It is, yes, spelled the same way as my name. But if you want to, and you can access the books, you can get to Barnes & Noble, you can get to that, and we'll get to the question. Yes?
Just a question, is that self-published as well?
This one is the one I did through a group called SDP, which is a subsidized editorial publishing. I had to pay for things like the cover design. Turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
It was my idea, but and the copy editing. And if you want, I don't want to take up the time, but if you want to talk about that process, I'll be glad to talk to you afterwards. And I'll be glad to give you their card and so on. But it's a fascinating change in the way publishing publication is taking place. And I think it is a very good thing, because books like this can get published. Whereas I would have had to have convinced a publisher, an agent, that this was a worthy book to have published. And I can put it out there and people can decide what they want to read. It is democracy in the raw. Wow, that's a great phrase.
Use that for your next one.
Yeah.
Democracy in the raw.
Democracy in the raw. Let me write that.
The name of a band.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
My name is Maggie Van Galen, and I've written 2 books. One is The Adventures of Keno and Ernest, the Diamond Mine, and one is The Adventures of the Banana Tree, and the other is The Adventures of Keno and Ernest, the Diamond Mine. Both, they're obviously the same characters. Keno is a very adventurous monkey, gets into a lot of trouble, and his best friend in the whole jungle, thankfully for him, is a very wise elephant named Ernest. And Ernest is there to get him out of trouble. And Keno finds his way into trouble. I have 2 boys that are 7 and 9. So the trouble that Keno finds his way into are very similar to the ages of my children and the trouble that they happen to get into. And each story has a moral to it. So in the first story, in the Banana Tree, Keno learns a very valuable lesson about following family rules and the repercussions if you don't follow the family rules, and also trusting in your friends. So he sees a banana tree on the other side of the river, which he's not allowed to cross without his parents, but decides to cross it anyway and finds himself in danger, and relies on Ernest to get him out of trouble. And in the second book, as my children get older, as I said, the morals get a little bit older as well. So in the second book, Keno is desperate to find a present for his mom for Mother's Day, and decides that the diamond mine would be a good place to find one, and learns a lesson that if you take something without asking, even if you're planning to trade it or swap it, it's still stealing, and he ends up again in trouble and relies on Ernest to get him out of trouble. So I'm not going to read the stories. I will, however, show you the illustrations. I wish I could claim fame to the illustrations, but stick figures are the extent of my artistic ability. But my illustrator is unbelievable, and she's done a phenomenal job with the illustrations. I've never worked with another illustrator, so I can't say what it's like to work with anybody else, but she's like a little bird sitting in my head, and so she just reads my manuscript and comes up with these illustrations on her own. And she does a painting process, which I always pronounce wrong, but I think it's called gouache, which is acrylic meets watercolor. So there's like 22 layers of paint on each one. And we have another character in our book whose name is Toucan Tom. And Tom happens to be at the right place at the right time. And he's a great character in this. So they're fun books, and I've read to, I counted the other day, I've read to just over 3,000 children through schools and libraries. I was at the Manchester Athletic Club youth program not too long ago, and it's the best thing in the world to sit and watch the faces of the children. I'm sure you guys will agree. I mean, just watching the kids down here, it's awesome. And it's fun, and I've read to kids that are barely walking to kids in 5th grade, and the book seems to bode well for everybody. And like Paul said, the publishing process is amazing. It's life-changing, I would say, because I've been telling the story. My oldest son is almost 10. I've been telling the story since he was born. My father, when I was little, used to tell me stories about 2 characters, Keno and Ernest. Unfortunately, he never wrote any of them down before he passed away, and I don't remember the stories. I remember the characters, and I remember sort of what they were like, But when my son was born, I started telling the stories, making up my own adventures around them. And then I had gone into their classes before I had a book. And finally, when both kids were in school full-time, I thought, well, there's no better time than now. So I thought I'd take a risk, and if nothing else, leave a legacy for my kids. Not that I'm planning to go anywhere anytime soon, but and it's an amazing process, and it's awesome when friends and family like your book. Last November, I was honored with the Mom's Choice Award for my book, which is an international program, and it's like amazing. It's really amazing when total strangers like your book. So, and that's the story. So hopefully there's another adventure in the making, and it has to do with Kino and Ernest meeting friends and not always following what other friends tell you to do, making your own good decisions and making mindful choices when somebody tells you what to do. So that's my story, and from the marketing perspective, as Paul said, the book is available here at the library for checkout. It's available locally at Lisa Scala's Art Center, Paul's too,
Yeah.
Darcy's too.
Amazon.
It's Barnes and Noble, it's, you can come to my house, I'll sell it to you at my house, wherever you like it.
I'll come to your house,
Dr. Nick's house call.
Yes.
just to sell the book.
So, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm love to answer questions. Yes.
Is your book in lots and lots of different libraries?
It's getting there. It's trying to get there. Where are you from?
Methuen.
Methuen? If you give me the name of your library before you leave, I'll call them and see if I can send them a copy.
Okay.
Okay? Yes.
What's your story about a girl and what else is in the story?
Well, there's no girl. It's a monkey, and the monkey's name is Kino. And there's an elephant, and his name is Ernest.
It's about animals?
Yep, it's about animals. Kino and Ernest, and then the other character is do you know what a toucan is?
Yes. A toucan is like a really big bird with a long beak.
Right, it's like the Fruit Loops bird, right, with the big colorful beak.
Uh-huh.
So Toucan Tom is the other character in the story, and those are the three main characters, and they have adventures together.
Are there other characters but they're not main?
There's only one other character, which is Kino's mom, and she just sort of comes in at the very end of the book.
Who's Kino?
Kino's the monkey. Because at the end of every adventure, after Kino gets in trouble and Ernest rescues him, Ernest always makes Kino go home and tell his parents what happened.
And also, I think this is going to be not for kindergartners.
No, I have kindergartners love it.
But I mean by reading.
Oh, yes, that might be it. Yes.
How long does it take you to write each book, Maggie?
From the publication process?
Just from start to finish?
Well, my process is probably different. Everybody has their own process, but I tell my story first. So, and I tell it to my kids. They're my sounding board, my critics. So I always tell the story, I make up the story, and then as soon as I have it sort of memorized, if you will, as a story, as a plot, we have it set, then I write it down. So the sort of getting that out of my head and onto paper probably takes 6 months or so, I would say. And I'm not a very disciplined writer, so I don't wake up and say, okay, from 9 to 10 I'm going to write a story. I sort of wake up in the middle of the night and go, bleh, and I write it all down. And then from the publication process, once I have it written, it takes Joanna about 3 months to do the illustrations. And that includes the pencil sketch and the approval process and then the painting. And then it probably takes another 6 months to go through like the full publication and getting it all done. So it's probably a good 2-year process. And I did a reading just recently, I'm sure you guys will find the same, but I did a reading at Pembroke here in Georgetown, and I was talking to the 5th graders, and the librarian was planting questions about revision because all the kids are learning about revision in school. And she said, you know, how many times do you have to revise the book? And, because of course the kids don't want to have to revise the book. And it's, I don't know, many, many, many times. And this is supposed to be the final copy, and it's still on because I found an error or two or three in it. So even when it's final, it's never final. And probably like any other person, from a creative perspective, nothing is ever perfect. So,
When is that one gonna be available?
well, technically speaking, it's available now, but I'm trying to pull it from availability because of the errors that are in it. So, but it is, technically, it's online at Barnes & Noble, but just as of, I think, Monday, I got it, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Rebecca. Very excited. Any other questions? And I have bookmarks for the kids, so if you guys want to bookmark, feel free, and I called us too, and there's a good bookmark.
I just have business cards, you know, I mean, you can use them
You can use
as
them as a
bookmark.
bookmark.
And mine are for adults too, not just kids.
I don't know.
But if you guys,
Just kidding.
do you want them to come up and get them and have them around? Okay.
At the end,
Whatever.
or whatever.
The,
Anyone else have
the
questions?
question about the process, my children came to live with Mary and I when they were 3 and 5 years old. And then Emma had a change in her birth certificate and became 4 years old after she arrived here. And I'll tell you that story sometime if you're really interested. But that's when I wrote my book. It was when they came to live with us. And they became part of our family. And they, at that time, spoke only 2 English words. They spoke just Spanish. The 2 words were Barbie and Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse was all one word. About 6 weeks later, they went from speaking Spanish with a few English words to speaking English with a few Spanish words. Incredible ability to learn languages. And now they, literally, they do not speak Spanish as well as Mary and I do. But the book was written as a combination of what I believe, what I came to believe about adoption, and using every Spanish word that was in my vocabulary to tell the story. So there's a restriction on what I could say and but I wrote or told the story in Spanish, because that was what they understood. That was, do the math, 21 years ago. I started getting this published about 1.5 years ago. The translations I had done by people that I knew. You know, I mean, I've learned about lead zones in the publishing, you know, all sorts of things that I never, you know, I know the difference between a copy editor and a story editor. It's a fascinating process in and of itself. If you've got a book you want to get published, you can do it for essentially nothing if you go on to some of the sites, but then you have to do all the editing yourself. Or you can hand it out, pay somebody to do it, you know, charge you a certain amount per word and so on like that. But do it, just do it.
But I think if you, like you said earlier, self-publishing and print on demand used to be a dirty word in the book publishing world years ago. And it has completely opened the door for people like us to get our stories out. Because otherwise you would have to wait sometimes a lifetime to ever get picked up by a Simon & Schuster or Penguin Books, something like that, to even see your books in print. So it's a great opportunity. It's not necessarily a fast opportunity, and you have to do a lot of work at it. And one of the reasons that we're promoting is because all the marketing is up to us. So the publisher isn't doing any marketing apart from putting the books online. And even that you have to promote within yourself. You have to make sure that the cover's up and it's the right cover. And so it is a long process.
My agent did not set up the show tonight. I don't
She's
have an
right
agent.
over there.
I know, my agent
I'm
too.
sorry, Mary.
No, I'd be terrible.
I have a question. I totally forgot it.
I hear
How
all-
did you? I'm gonna be 40 this year. It's totally started. How did you find your illustrator? Was she a friend or?
I went in to tell the story to my youngest son's kindergarten class, and I didn't have a book. I didn't even have it written down at the time. I've just always been a storyteller, and she is a phenomenal teacher, and she said, "It's an awesome story. You should really try to get it published." And I was kind of like, yeah. I published a book of poetry a gazillion years ago, and it literally sucked the life out of my writing because it just. Poetry was something that should have stayed. I should have stayed a writer, not an author with poetry. So I didn't want to do that experience again, and I was very scared, as you were talking about, to publish again. And so I wasn't keen on publishing, but she kept pushing me every time I went in to volunteer for the class or whatever. And she said, you know, my best friend is an illustrator who works for a publishing company. So if you're interested and you ever get to that point, let me just set up a meeting. So I met with her, she read the book and she thought it was fantastic, and she's like, I have 10 ideas right off the bat. And I was like, great, let's do it. It sounded, you know, so we tried. And again, my goal with this is the first book, my goal with the first book was literally get it published. And let's see how we can make it look. And if something goes from there, then great. So I met her through my son's kindergarten teacher, and I loved her, so I used her again in the second one.
My name again is Darcy Nuttall. I'm a therapist in North Andover. You can get a hold of me at my email address is darcy.nuttall@gmail.com, and my book, The Mindful Monster, is available on Amazon.com. There's a digital version that you can get on Kindle, and you can also get a paperback on Amazon.com.
And I'm Paul Jansen, still. My book is available through the publisher I use, which is Lulu, L-U-L-U, but also on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble in all of the versions. It is also available in several of the local bookstores. Scala's Art Center, Lisa Scala has it. It's available over at Jabberwocky in Newburyport. It's, I think, still being carried at the Andover bookstore. And very locally, it's being carried out at a couple bookstores in Denver, Colorado, if you get that far out. And Pearl Buck Center and stuff like that. It's available and mostly on my website, and that'll connect you to all the places. You have to spell my last name right. It's Janson, but the website's pauljansen.com, and look for it.
My name is Maggie Van Galen, and my books are The Adventures of Keno and Ernest, The Banana Tree, The Adventures of Keno and Ernest, The Diamond Mine. And you can learn more about me and my adventures at my website, which is maggievangalen.com. And the book is available locally. All set? Good? Done.
Questions, you can come up to the front and talk to the authors. If you'd like a brownie, they're over here. And we're going to try to close this by 8 o'clock, and that means we'll probably be out by about 8:15, 8:20. Okay? So thank you very much.